Before we even begin, understand this. The person I'm about to describe might be sitting right next to you. You might work with them, live with them, or even call them your friend. And yet, if you know how to read them, you can influence their every move without them ever realizing. I call them the fear and comfort seekers. These are the people who will do almost anything to avoid discomfort. They crave safety, physically, emotionally, and even socially. It's not that they're weak. It's that their brain has learned to choose the safe option before they've even considered the alternatives. Here's how you recognize them. They hesitate when making decisions. They look for reassurance, a nod, a smile, or someone else's approval before moving forward. They avoid conflict, even when they know they're right. And this is where their weakness becomes your opportunity. If you want them to agree with you, don't challenge them head on. Instead, frame your idea as the safest possible choice. Make it feel like going against you would be risky, uncomfortable, or full of uncertainty. For example, instead of saying, "This is the best way," you say, "If we don't do this, things could get messy really fast, but if we act now, it'll be smooth and simple." Notice what happens. You've painted the alternative as dangerous and your path as a safe haven. Their mind will naturally choose the comfort you've offered. But here's the real power move. Once they trust you as a source of safety, they'll keep coming back for advice, for guidance, for decisions. And every time they do, your influence grows. Remember, this isn't about hurting them. It's about understanding human behavior so you can navigate it with precision. Because when you can spot a fear and comfort seeker, you hold the map to their decisions before they've even made them. If there's one type of person who can walk straight into a trap without ever seeing it, it's the overconfident. They're the ones who believe they've seen it all. They think they can't be manipulated because they've read a book, watched a documentary, or been in the game long enough. And that arrogance, that's exactly what makes them vulnerable. The overconfident will often interrupt you mid-sentence because they already know where you're going. They'll dismiss your ideas before hearing them out. And here's the irony. They think they're leading the conversation, but they're actually walking right where you want them. Here's the trick. You don't confront their ego, you feed it. Agree with them. Validate their brilliance. Then plant a seed that makes them think your idea was actually theirs. For example, you might say, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." And building on what you just said, and then you introduce the action you wanted all along. Because once they believe it came from their own genius, they'll defend it like it's their life's work. But you need to be subtle. Push too hard, and they'll smell the manipulation. Move too slow, and they'll lose interest. It's a dance, and timing is everything. Now here's the most dangerous part. Once you made an overconfident person think you're their equal, you gain a permanent backstage pass to their decision-making. They won't just listen to you. They'll seek you out, convince you're one of the few people who get them. And when that happens, they'll walk into almost any scenario you set up, thinking they're in control, all the while playing exactly the role you designed for them. The overconfident think they can't be fooled, but they forget. Confidence blinds faster than fear. Some people would do almost anything just to hear the words, "Good job." These are the approval seekers. They live for validation. A smile, a nod, a compliment, it's their fuel. Take that away, and you'll watch their confidence collapse in seconds. You've probably seen them in action. They'll volunteer for tasks they don't want just to please someone. They'll change their opinion mid-argument if they feel the other person disapproves. And the most telling sign? They over-explain their actions, hoping you'll agree they did the right thing. Now here's the thing about approval seekers. They're not weak. In fact, they can be incredibly capable. But their need for acceptance means you can guide them without resistance if you know the right levers to pull. The method is simple and dangerous. First, give them the praise they crave. Highlight something they've done well, even if it's small. Then attach your request to that praise. For example, "You handled that really well, and that's exactly why I think you'd be perfect for this next step." See what happened? They feel recognized, and now they want to earn the next compliment. But here's the power move. Once they've tied their self-worth to your approval, you can subtly steer their choices simply by adjusting your reactions. Show enthusiasm when they align with you. Stay silent or neutral when they don't. Soon, they'll start anticipating your response before they act and tailoring their behavior to please you. It's almost too easy, but it's also a responsibility. Because the truth is, once an approval seeker trusts you, they won't just follow your lead. They'll defend you against anyone, even at their own expense. The real question is, when you spot one, will you protect them from manipulation or use their need for approval to get exactly what you want? If fear clouds judgment, anger blinds it completely. The hot-tempered personality is a walking trigger. They react fast, loud, and without thinking. And in that heated moment, they'll say yes to things they would normally refuse. They'll agree to deals, make promises, and take risks just to prove a point. You've seen this before. Someone raises their voice, and a hot-tempered person matches it instantly. A small disagreement becomes a full-blown battle. And in the chaos, they stop noticing who's actually steering the conversation. The key to influencing them: you don't fight their fire with fire. You light the match and then hand them the fuel. Here's how. Step 1. Find a topic that sparks their frustration. It might be an insult to their ability, a challenge to their status, or a reminder of a past failure. Step 2. Guide their reaction toward the choice you want them to make. For example, you're right, they don't think you can pull this off. But if you take this approach, you'll prove them wrong in one move. Boom! Now their anger is no longer scattered. It's aimed exactly where you want it, but you must control the pace. Push too hard, and they'll explode in a way you can't contain. Move too soft, and they'll lose the heat before making a decision. Here's the dark truth. Once a hot-tempered person locks onto a target, they'll throw everything they have at it. And if you position yourself as the one who understands their fight, you'll have a front-row seat to their loyalty and their fury. Remember, anger is powerful fuel, but it burns fast. So when you strike, make sure it's at the exact moment their fire is at its peak. Because in those seconds, they're not thinking about consequences. They're thinking about victory. Some people see the world exactly as it's shown to them. They don't question, they don't suspect, they simply accept. These are the naive, and they're easier to guide than they'll ever realize. They trust quickly, believe easily, and rarely doubt the intentions of others. It's not that they're foolish. It's that they've never learned to look for shadows behind the smile. Spotting them is simple. They'll take stories at face value. They'll repeat something they've heard without verifying it. And they'll say, okay, to request before asking, why? To influence a naive person, you don't need force, you need suggestion. You give them a piece of information, framed as if it's common knowledge. Say it casually, confidently, and watch as they build their choices around it. Here's the most unsettling part. Once they've decided you're trustworthy, they'll believe almost anything you say, even if it contradicts what they've heard before. For example, they're planning to change everything next week. I just thought you should know. You planted a seed. They'll water it with their own imagination until it becomes truth. Warning retention trigger. Around 8 to 10 minutes asterisk. If you think this personality type is rare, you're wrong. One of the next traits we cover might belong to someone you trust the most, and you won't see it coming. Asterisk. This creates suspense and makes them wait for the next reveal. Asterisk. But here's the twist. A naive person isn't just easy to influence, they're also easy to protect. You can guide them towards safer choices just as easily as you could lead them into a trap. So the question becomes, when you recognize one, will you shield them from the world's games, or quietly pull the strings yourself? Some people make choices like they're flipping a coin, fast, instinctive, and without hesitation. These are the impulsive decision makers. They thrive on instant action. If something excites them, they'll jump without checking how deep the water is. They crave the rush, the thrill, the immediate payoff. Spotting them is easy. They're the first to say, let's do it. Before the details are even clear, they buy things they don't need, agree to plans they can't afford, and sign up for challenges just because they sounded exciting. To guide an impulsive person, you don't need a long argument. In fact, the longer you talk, the more likely they'll lose interest. What you need is urgency. Present your idea as a now or never opportunity. This chance won't come again. If we move now, we win. If we wait, it's gone. Their mind will focus on the potential gain, not the possible loss. Here's the danger and the opportunity. Once they commit, they'll go all in, burning energy, time, and resources to see it through. If you've aimed them toward your goal, they'll push it harder than you ever could alone. Warning: retention trigger. Around 14 to 16 minutes asterisk. By the way, there's one personality type we haven't touched yet, and if you can read that type, you'll hold more power than most people ever dream of. It's coming in just a moment. Asterisk. Keeps them waiting for the final reveal. Asterisk. But remember, impulsive doesn't mean reckless. Sometimes their instincts lead them straight to a win. The difference is you can tilt the odds in your favor by making sure the first idea they hear is yours. Because with impulsive decision makers, the first voice they trust is often the only one they follow. Some people don't just play the game, they design it. These are the master strategists. They watch everything. The way you speak, where your eyes move, even the pauses between your words. They rarely act in the moment. Instead, they collect information until the perfect time to strike. Spotting them isn't easy. They're calm under pressure, rarely revealing emotion. You might think they're quiet or disinterested, but in reality, they're mapping every move you make. Here's their secret weapon. While everyone else reacts, they prepare. When they finally make a move, it's precise, calculated, and almost impossible to stop. To influence a master strategist, you can't rush. You have to earn their trust. Slowly. Give them small wins, consistent results, and just enough insight to keep them curious. The moment they decide you're an asset, you'll find yourself inside their inner circle. But beware, once you're in, they'll also be studying you. One wrong move, and they'll reposition you without warning. The real power move: learn to think like them. Anticipate their strategy before it's fully revealed. If you can do that, you won't just survive their game. You'll become a player they can't ignore. Now, if you've been watching closely, you just learned 7 ways people can be guided, influenced, or completely controlled. But here's the truth. Knowing these traits is one thing. Recognizing them in real life is another. And here's my challenge to you. Subscribe right now, because in my next video, I'm going to reveal the one manipulation tactic so subtle you could use it in a conversation today, and the other person would thank you for it. So, are you going to let this knowledge fade, or are you going to prepare yourself to use it before someone else uses on you?